Hi, and welcome. So this is our extra special Burnout Busting Week. And I thought I'd do for this first day a little bit of an explanation of my experiences with burnout, because there's a reason I'm doing this. As is so often the case, I go into the depths of things that I've experienced myself, because that's the best way of doing things. And I can remember having burnt out several times, and certainly coming very, very close many other times, having worked my way through when I was actually suffering with quite deep depression. I burnt out a couple of times in that period and really, really struggled. And what was going on in my personal life, as well as what was going on then with trying to maintain work and not let on too much about what was going on in my life, was putting immense amounts of pressure on me. Hopefully you'll have seen the status earlier where I explained about the stress cup. My stress cup was running about 3/4 full at the best of times, because I was so worried about people finding out that I was depressed. I was also dealing with the depression itself, and life was just really, really hard work. I also spent a lot of time beating myself up over the fact that I was depressed and stressed and struggling with life. And that didn't help either, because that also adds into that stress cup. And actually, just earlier this year, I ran into the very beginnings of burnout. I've got much, much better over the years at spotting what's happening and stopping it earlier. I'm still not fantastic every time, and sometimes I get to the end of it and kind of go, oh yeah, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But this time I got there relatively early and was able to say, okay, I'm struggling right now. I'm really, really close to completely burning out. And it was just a mixture of all of the things that had happened through the year. So obviously, we've got a global pandemic going on, and I'm at risk. So there is a certain amount of stress just underlying there, because I could be potentially very, very ill if things go wrong. So there is a little bit of worry there. I try and keep it under control, because at the end of the day, worrying about it isn't going to help. But that doesn't change the fact that sometimes I worry about it. And add to that the fact that my partner had been ill, my two best friends have been ill with it, in all three cases. And, my brothers had it. There was a lot going on. I was trying to maintain, for those of you who don't know, I also run a livery yard, so people keep their horses here. So I needed to keep them safe, the people who come here every day to look after their horses. And that meant changing some routines, changing some rules. And that doesn't always go down well, although I have to say my guys were absolutely amazing. But at the end of the day, it's all that little bit extra stress. And I got to about end of July, beginning of August, and I hit a brick wall. And I thankfully recognized it almost immediately, and so was able to stop and say, okay, I need to take some time out. I need to not be pressuring myself, because what I tend to do, particularly when things are a little bit stressful, I go in, all guns blazing and pour myself into work, play, looking after myself, all of those things, which is great. But when I then hit that brick wall, I have to take a step back and actually focus on, okay, I'm not going to do all the learning in the world. I'm not maybe going to be growing my business this month, and that's okay. As long as I'm maintaining, that's absolutely fine, but I need to take a step back. And so that's why I did what I did. And it worked. And thankfully by sort of the beginning of August, the end of August, the beginning of September, I was starting to feel a lot more myself again, and able to pour myself into everything that I do. with vim and vigor again. I love my life, but it is a little bit crazy, and sometimes it's important to recognize that I do need to take a step back, just like everybody else does. I'm working really hard in the background to make my everyday life as simple as possible. So silly little things like not having things in drawers, because that was frustrating me. So now I have all my clothes hanging up because it's so much easier for me. And that's not going to be the thing for everybody, but having things that make life easier is a great thing. I'm currently doing research to see if I can get hold of one of these automatic hoovers, the Roomba type things, because hoovering is not something that I enjoy, but it's really useful when it gets done. And so having a machine that can do it would be amazing. But for other reasons, I have stair gates up so that the dogs can't always get in to every room. And so it would be a question of managing to figure out how to work around that. So that's why I'm doing some research into that. But doing things to make my life as simple as possible every day means that I have more capacity for when things don't quite go right and for all the craziness in my life, which is amazing 99% of the time. I hope that that gives you guys some insight into my own experiences. I actually have found over the years that burnout can be very useful for learning after the fact, but that doesn't mean that I enjoy it, and it doesn't mean that it's a good place to be. It simply means that I'm able to take my lemons and make lemonade rather than trying to eat them as they are. Although, to be fair, I like them as they are too. but to maintain that, saying. So, yeah. Even when things go wrong, there is often something that you can find out of it. That doesn't mean that you have to be all positive and gung-ho about it. But if after the fact you're able to find some positives, then that's amazing too. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight, and I hope that you're enjoying the posts and hints and tips. We've got a couple of interviews lined up for this week, and as well as lots more hints and tips and things. I will see you soon.